Welcome back, everybody, to Catapult Your Business, where we help answer one question for entrepreneurs every week to catapult businesses to the next level. I've got an awesome client of ours here for the last couple of years, working with the talented Colin Bowman on our team. I'll tell you more about who our client is here in a moment. He's doing some pretty cool things in the market to support entrepreneurs, but he brought a really interesting question to the table today. He's essentially coming to me and saying, Casey, I'm trying to figure out what speed of growth to take in my business while managing the quality outputs, because business is coming to us and my fear of ramping up marketing could actually break the business. So how fast do I scale? What does that look like? Should I be pushing marketing or should I be pulling in people into the organization? We're going to really unpack this today and dive in. But before we do, I've got to introduce you to Justin Knowles. Justin, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
We're glad to have you. Founder and principal here of Facture Product Development. I'll come to you here in a moment just to speak to what you're doing today for entrepreneurs, but congrats so far on your business. I think you told me this is your 12th business. Is that right?
Yeah, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
That's a great thing.
Yeah.
That's a great thing. Well, you and I were catching up before, right? Like so many times these serial entrepreneurs, including yourself, you start these businesses. I've definitely had a few failures. I think that's part of the entrepreneurial journey for most. And my assumption is you're running the business so much better. And my gut says because of the amount of businesses you've started and the products you've looked at, that's really actually helped you with this business and how you shape. And I'm sure that kind of comes through even sometimes in the consulting that you all do. Why don't you tell everybody listening in what's going on over at your firm right now? What are you guys up to? What are you working on? How do you help entrepreneurs?
Yeah, we engage with entrepreneurs that are typically at the angel or seed stage, trying to materialize their vision into some sort of product or service. And so we act sort of as the brains, we augment their team, or we do all the work ourselves to facilitate that and create physical products, then bring them into the marketplace for them.
Fantastic. Well, there's definitely a need for that. And and I understand why quality is so important in your neck of the woods, right? Because at the end of the day, the way you do that could make or break the business is the reality.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So a lot of pressure there. Well, you've had a great run here. You started in 2017, so congrats on your 5-year anniversary on this
Thank you.
business. And again, I know I speak for Colin, who is your advisor. We're really appreciative you let us come along for the ride with you over the last 2 years, and congrats on your success. Getting into the 7-figure kind of space now, and I know you're working on continuing to scale that and working on all kinds of really cool stuff. So just kudos to you and your team, well deserved, and excited to see what you all go out and do. So
Thank you.
yeah, you bet. Let's slow down and get into this detail here of how fast should we be going? Tell me a little bit more about the genesis of this question. Like, what are you experiencing right now that's made you bring this to the front and center today?
Yeah. So as a business, we haven't gotten to the point or needed to really do much in the way of marketing. A lot of all of our clients essentially have been organic, either by referral or just finding us on the web, location search or something like that, but no active outreach.
Yeah.
And so we've, sort of been just doing the work that comes to us. And the main question, or what we always run into, is, okay, well, if we want to do certain kinds of work, maybe that we feel we're best suited, we need to be more proactive in outreach and marketing and finding the startups or entrepreneurs that are doing things in areas that we're interested in working in. But there's always that balance point of, we don't have capacity, so I don't want to go out and try to find work, and also trying to grow the business into as best as possible. So not too quick, for example.
Well, you're asking a really interesting question. My assumption is that you have a desire to scale this organization to a pretty large size. If it'd be 8-figure, 9-figure, my assumption is that you have an interest in that. Is that true, to grow this quite a bit?
Yeah, I think growth is always either growing or dying. So I'd like to continue growing to some degree. Yeah.
Well, and you've, as you know, from selling businesses in the past, there's an enterprise value associated with every business that gets placed that you have to ultimately make a decision of when does it make sense to jump off. And even if you don't have a desire to sell and you see this doing it for the rest of your life, you've got to build it to sell. And that's just a fundamental way to be able to grow and scale an organization in a healthy, sustainable way. And so the first thing that I was really thinking about when you brought this question up, and then we'll get more into the micros of the marketing specifically, I think you've got to actually ask a different question here, which is, when do you have to start to engage in outbound? Because otherwise you don't have a
Hmm.
control lever over the business, right? I mean, right now,
Exactly.
if inbound turns off on you, if something happens, right? If you're where you're showing up on Google shifts, other players come in the market and that organic slows down, or for some reason the referrals drop off, I doubt that will happen. But as you go through that, the future buyers of this company or that are going to place a value are going to look and go, how much can you control this sales engine of the business? And I wonder if that's been thrown into this discussion yet, of how you're thinking about what decisions you make over the next, short timeline period here. Just curious, any thoughts you have on that?
Yeah, definitely. That's certainly one of the reasonings behind trying to explore this, and um, with Colin, especially as we try to figure out what is the long-term plan for the business. Why are we building it? And yeah, having a mechanism or a system in place where we can, almost like a lever, like you mentioned, where we can, bring in more clients or slow it down.
Yeah.
And knowing how to control that lever is key. We don't have a lever at this point. We just take what comes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, congrats. I mean, you must be doing a good job if you're
Yeah.
living off referrals and organic. I think a lot of business owners listening in today are like, "Ah, I wish that was my problem right now." Right. I think it's a good place to be, because you've also seen some good scale in just a
Yep.
short 5-year period of time. But I think the piece that I want to harp on just a little further before I move to the actual strategy itself, when I think about businesses and when I look at the landscape of the companies that we work with, and when I see the scalability, one of the things that I commonly see is that referrals should always be your number one tactic. Doesn't mean
Mhm.
doesn't mean it's your largest tactic, because there's a lot of variables that go into that. But it should be your number one, meaning your most focused tactic. And so the first thing I would encourage you to think about is that take this referral process, and you could already be doing this. So if this is just validation, then great. But I would make sure I have a more formalized outbound referral program that you're driving with your client base. And so that way you start to at least get trackable outbound levers on that. And you start to have more tracking versus it just came in, oh, we got a referral. Start to actually study and measure the speed of referral, when it comes from clients, how does it hit, who's referring you in. And I would stay more focused in that space before I went to a new space where there's going to be a learning curve, because I think it could change the
Yeah.
persona of what your client base is actually the piece that I want you to understand. I think there's not just, and I'm sure you've thought through that too, like that this growth isn't just, taking on more. It's also different type of clientele that might come in when switching to new outbound strategies versus more of the pulled mentality. And I'm sure you've thought of
Yeah.
that as well, but I think that's an important factor for everybody listening in to realize, that makes this problem a little bit more complex.
Yeah, no, I think that's something that Colin and I have worked on a little bit. I think there's always room for growth and improvement in
Yeah,
that. And
always optimizing.
yeah, there's ways to scaling that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think so. Let's back this up and let's just put it in a box for a moment. Right now, you have a number of leads that are coming in on referral and organic, and the real question is not if. I think it has to be, when do you invest on an outbound approach? I think that's the key. I also think we have to then break that down further to go, what is sales versus what is marketing? I'm curious
Mhm.
to know, like, is there a sales team in place at the firm right now?
No, the sales process is sort of owned by me, kind of
Sure.
that CTO or CEO led sales approach, just because the quantity of clients we need to sustain growth is not a high quantity.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, at some point we need to build out a proper sales team, so to speak.
Are you getting the advice you need for your business from this episode? Do you want to get more than just one question answered and have it customized to you and your business? Well, Cultivate Advisors works one-on-one with thousands of business owners every day. Let them help you scale your business today. Don't just listen to this episode. Take action and go to cultivateadvisors.com to see which advisor you get matched with and receive a free 2-hour business assessment on how you could scale your business to the next level. Act now at cultivateadvisors.com.
So personally, in terms of just past blueprints we've seen and in terms of how businesses have scaled, I would actually invest more of my time on the sales side over the marketing side based on what I'm going to
Hmm.
assume per your comment, your average, cost, amount of revenue you're generating on average per client and the tailwinds that happen with those clients. Based on those assumptions, I would actually go after this sales space first with a little bit of push more than I
Hmm.
would go after the marketing, because I think by going after sales, you remove one of the barriers, which is the changing
Hmm.
client persona. I think you're going to be able to manage that
Yeah.
better, and you're going to
Yep.
learn a lot about the scalability of more leads coming in, but you actually have help to service it. I actually find a lot of owners don't separate sales and operations. They assume when something is sold, it must be produced, when there's actually a lot of prestige in your space of how long is the queue before the project
Hmm.
starts. You're always going to be
Yeah.
able to manage the queue on the operational side. Now, eventually, it'll get so long that you'll have to make a decision. Are you building a firm that has a long
Hmm.
queue and people wait for you, or do you have to be there to capture when
Yep.
the moment hits from funding and whatnot, which is my assumption some of that exists in your space, in which you'll have to
Yep.
solve that queue. But you can reactively solve a queue while clients are waiting. You cannot reactively solve the speed of a sales process when the lead comes in. And so for me,
Yep.
the building blocks, like the order of operations, because really your question to me is a lot more about prioritization than if you should do it. I think deep down you
Yeah.
have to do this at some point. It's just what do you
Yep.
prioritize and when? So the way I view the business from limited information I have thus far, is I would always generally go after building my sales channel before building my marketing channel out, because you have such a good referral and organic structure, and have that
Hmm.
sales rep dual. Don't do the in-house outside sales track. Put them on all of it. Have them start to shadow you. Have them start to
Hmm.
take away that engine speed, so you have more space to work on the marketing components or the operational capacities in the future, because you need to spend more of your time there as the owner. And then in addition, doesn't mean, by the way, you're not involved in the sales process of being the intellectual property and the value proposition of consultative approach. It just means that you don't have to quarterback any of the process, is what I mean by that.
Yep.
And then on the other side of the sales leverage, what I would really slow down and take a look at, and we can dig in a little bit further, is what type of tactics could the reps be doing? And you could be hiring one or two of these, by the way, in terms of your investment back to the company. Not Luke is like getting a big sales team, because we want to test it, learn it before you scale it. My gut
Yep.
says you can have these reps go after referral type tactics to keep your persona in check. And now you start to have a lever
Yep.
around outbound, but you're going to be able to control that lever because you can go make partnerships with folks that know of, folks doing angel funding. You can start to make partnerships, with folks that are going to be able to bring back the business to you. And now you have somebody dedicated to manage that relationship, and you can track data on that and start to show what your outbound funnel is before you bring in what I consider more of the wild, wild west, which is a lot more of the online marketing approach and the world that's really fun to push buttons and see explosions if done right. But boy, is it painful on the operational side, and it can really screw up quality controls if it's not done right. And you need the infrastructure, like I'm saying, on the sales side to support that when it does start to happen. So why not build there first? Because you'll need it. Curious
Yep.
what's going
Makes
off in your
sense.
head, what you've already thought of, or what's maybe a little new.
Yeah, I think that the idea of building out a sales, team to handle more of the referral side, uh, that's somewhat new to me, at least in terms of ideas.
Sure.
Colin and I have talked about there needs to be some sort of support person to support me. We haven't
Yep.
determined if they're in marketing, there is, sales, are they like an SDR, like what kind of like uh,
Structure.
person will assist me. Yeah. But that's another approach that I haven't quite, um, I guess, grasped or thought about. I think that could be very useful just because it is like part of what we're selling is more or less my vision and how I work with our clients and help them
Right.
develop what they need to develop. But then
You
again,
need
I'm
the
stuck
knowledge
in the
base.
weeds, sort of
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm definitely a bottleneck when it comes to proposals and the sales process, and I'm trying to spread that amongst, the operational members of my team. But I think having another person to quarterback that might be a great idea to sort of help move it along and get those turned around, but also bring in more quality referrals.
That what you just said at the end is the most important part of that entire structure. The other parts is more of a time productivity question, and where as the owner you should be spending time. We can unpack that in a whole other conversation at some point, but I
Yeah.
think that the last piece of what you just said was the answer to your question. When you walked me through what was going on in the business, the number one thing that I just could not get out of my head was the fact that your persona is going to change. And it's you'll still find some personas, but you won't be established and have the systems in place to weed out those personas, to know how to approach the personas. And that is why the quality will
Yep.
fall, right? You're never going to leave as the influencer or the knowledge base of the organization. I mean, that's just the nature of the business that you've created and the skill set that you hold. And you're obviously good at it, or you wouldn't be getting the referral generation you are. So, bulk up that confidence and push yourself to go, I need to bring in this salesperson, and the structural, what type of salesperson is very interesting. I personally think you want the person who is skilled enough to quarterback the relationship with your end user. They are great at relationship building. They're very detail oriented. They're going to be able to manage the process, and they're going to be your liaison to bring you in after they've already qualified the opportunity, and they're pulling you in and taking notes, driving the system, delivering the proposal, communicating with the operations team, helping, onboard the client even and hand it off. I actually think you can have a person that's managing from start to finish that process with your team of implementers. To where what it allows you to do is then to go shift that energy to work with that salesperson to go, let's get you talking to channel partners. Let's get you talking to folks that can be the gift that keeps on giving. And that's the salesperson's job, is to tee those conversations, to go find them and bring you into the mix. And I think that's the first step. I mean, I could go 10 more steps of different tactics I would go after, but I think that step alone will 10x your business if done right. I think that why worry? Why go test in the open ether of digital marketing and risk the persona shift?
Yeah.
Why? And I know you feel this because your question is like, I'm going to lose the quality. And so my answer to your whole pull versus push, pull them in.
Yeah.
Pull them in. Why would you go against what's working? Just figure out how to ramp up what's working in more of a scalable environment that is more controllable, so you maximize enterprise value. There's a lot of people that would love to buy a business in the future that would go, yeah, we don't mess with digital marketing. We are just really in tune with the relationships that matter, and we are the voice, the legitimate company out there that is solving this for entrepreneurs in this space.
Awesome. Yeah, I like it.
But honestly, I'm sure you've thought a lot of this, and I'm just cutting it out for you and putting it in a box. But I personally wouldn't look anywhere else yet. Once that's maximized, then you're going to hand that off, and you're going to go to the next chapter. And the decision should be, what's the most controllable sales or marketing outreach you can go to next? And that's, again, a lot of owners struggle with that. I'm sure you can relate to this, Justin. There is so much noise for small business owners than ever before around marketing and sales tactics.
Yeah.
It is nuts. I mean, my business used to be ran, before the big ad days online, where it was just like, faxing in payrolls and overnighting payroll checks. And, I still remember just like hanging door hangers, and like that was a thing.
Yeah.
It still happens, but it's just that you have 1,000 ways to go. And so just, do what I'm sure you're telling your clients, cut the noise out, focus on the best that product can be. You do the same. Focus on the most simple tactic that does not involve you and is not at the mercy of other vendors, where you have more control. And I think that's how I would start this endeavor. And my gut says you're going to see a massive lift in growth over time.
Yeah. Awesome. I like it.
Cool. What's really standing out for you? And you're like, that's what I needed. And then is there any other still questions that are even deeper? You're going, but how would you approach this? Or what would be your thoughts around this? Happy to give you more insight if I can.
Yeah, I think, I guess how would you like taking that to the tactics side of things in terms of you talked about shadowing me, developing that person. How would you motivate or develop somebody in that, if you were in my shoes, I guess, and you're going to go
Yeah.
out there and find somebody that met those sort of, detail oriented, relationship builder, et cetera.
Yep.
How would you take that to the next level to develop them?
Thanks for tuning in to Catapult Your Business, where Cultivate Advisors is helping you catapult your business one question at a time. Are you running your business, or is your business running you? At Cultivate Advisors, they'll match you with an expert advisor and do a free 2-hour deep dive for your business. This will give you the clarity you need on how to get your business to the next level. Cultivate has worked with thousands of businesses. What do you have to lose? So head over to cultivateadvisors.com and sign up for your free 2-hour session.
Well, truthfully, based on the time allocation you probably have, I wouldn't hire a junior. I would hire somebody who's already done this.
Mm-hmm.
I think that often owners, we come up with a dollar amount that we want to invest, and then we try to make it fit within that investment. I'm sure that resonates with you on the back end of product development. That frustrates you sometimes with clients. I think that people do that too much actually in the earlier stages of business growth. And instead you have to look at the market and go, what does this person cost? So I would be searching Glassdoor and digging into the partnership, people in this space that already work for competitors or work in a similar vertical, that are already have the Rolodex for these partnerships, have already ran sales processes for this type of service line in some account. And truly, I think even if the cost was double, by the time you ran the output, it would be a smarter financial decision. And, within 12 months.
Makes sense.
Now that doesn't mean you're not developing. So I can talk a little bit about the handoff, if that would be helpful. Because I think that's where the shadowing and that piece, but just in terms of developing, you can't be great at everything in your business. You've built a business around you being great around your intellectual property and how you approach these owners to help support them with their product outputs. I would stay there. Hire people that are more skilled than you on these other areas that'll tell you how the best it can work. And don't surround yourself with people that you have to develop. In terms of the develop them around your vision, around how we approach the business, the quality standards, of course, right? You're the keeper of culture right now still, until you get more of an executive team in place. But in the interim, in this current moment, you're going to be the best by actually bringing people that already know how to do this.
Yeah. Makes sense.
That's just my true thoughts on that. As far as the handoff, would that be helpful if we slow down for just another minute or two on the handoff itself?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I think that's it's a challenging thing. This is your baby. You've built this on your knowledge, and you don't need to pass that off. You just need to structure the sales process in a way that you're only involved probably in the final step of it. Meaning any question you would ask, you should already know that information before they get to you. Right. So I would go back and work through and formalize the system to where you think of all the discovery you want to know and you train the person on the discovery side, not the implementation aspects. That way they can pull the information, make sure you hire somebody who's curious. You should be able to hand that step of the process off within 2 to 3 weeks max of the role. Then they're just quarterbacking, taking notes and helping summarize things for you while you're running your consultative approach to pull in what's needed. And then they're helping more turn into a project manager after that to help make sure whoever's going to deliver the scope, whoever's going to, do all those different elements, it's happening. And if that's you, that's where I would bring in more administrative staff to help support me in that versus your high paid salesperson who's going to help drive more revenue into the business.
Yep.
So now you really only have to hand off the discovery side, and everything else should actually come still through you. There's just administrative and automated functions you put into the process. For now.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Eventually you won't be able to be on every single meeting.
Yeah.
right? And you'll have to hire people at your same skill level or even beyond. But
Hmm.
for now, that's where I would stick as you try to navigate, this next, double or tripling of the company.
Yeah. That's great advice. Appreciate it.
Cool. Well, Justin, I hope this was helpful. Sounds like you got a couple grabs that you're going to be able to take back to the business. And again, I know I speak for Colin, just in terms of what you and your team are doing and the outputs you have. Just congratulations to you and your team again on the success. And most people don't know that the percentage of folks that even pass that 7-figure number is very, very small. And you've made that a reality now, and now it's about navigating the maturity of the business to the 8-figure mark and beyond. So for everybody else listening in, every situation is a little different, right? But if you're being faced with the same question of how fast do I grow, how do I approach my marketing and sales maneuvers, my marketing and sales levers, while I'm trying to figure out how to maneuver operationally to fulfill that or to create the quality outputs that I desire, slow down. And instead of trying to bite off the strategy, classic saying, bite the elephant or eat the elephant one bite at a time. Just pick the most controllable tactic and start there. Otherwise, you'll just swim around in procrastination and paralyze yourself, not knowing where to turn next. It's too big of a problem to solve, and your mind's going to change 10 more times over the next 5 to 10 years as you continue to scale the business. So go all in on one new tactic to start to learn how to control the growth of the company. All right, that's it for Catapult Your Business today. Thanks for joining us as we help elevate your business to the next level. And again, a special thanks to our guest and valued client over the last few years, Justin. Thanks again for joining us. If people want to learn a little bit more about your product and or your service, and what you can provide for entrepreneurs in this space, where can they find you at?
We're on the web at facture.design. That's facture.design.
Awesome. So go check it out. If you've got a business that might make sense to talk to Justin, we absolutely will call them out and vet them for you in terms of the work we've been able to do. So give them a quick look. Justin, thanks again. And everybody, take care. Continue your journey on the entrepreneurial journey, and we'll see you next time.